Vernon Presley threw his son's guitar in the trash and told him to get a real job. But what Elvis did at midnight while his parents slept changed history forever. It was a Friday evening in March 1950, and the Presley family apartment at Lauderdale Courts in Memphis was about to become a battlefield. 15-year-old Elvis had just come home from school with news that he thought would make his parents proud. Instead, it would trigger the worst fight the family had ever had. "I got a gig," Elvis announced, his face beaming with excitement. "A real paying gig. Mr. Sanders at the Eagle's Nest Club says I can play on Saturday nights for $5 plus tips. Can you believe it? Real money for playing music." Elvis expected his mama to smile, maybe even cry with pride. He expected his daddy to slap him on the back and say, "That's my boy." But Vernon Presley's face went dark in a way Elvis had never seen before. "No," Vernon said flatly. Elvis's smile faltered. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, no, you're not playing in some juke joint on Saturday nights. You've got school. You've got responsibilities. And music isn't a job. It's a hobby at best, a waste of time at worst." "But Daddy, it's $5 a night. That's more than—" "I said no!" Vernon slammed his hand on the table, making both Elvis and Gladys jump. "I'm not going to watch my son throw his life away chasing some fool dream about being a singer. You think you're going to be famous? You think you're going to make it big? Wake up, Elvis. People like us don't become stars. People like us work. Real jobs, factory jobs, jobs that pay the bills." Elvis felt his face flush with anger. "Daddy, you don't understand. Music is what I'm meant to do. I can feel it. I'm good at it. People say a lot of things," Vernon interrupted. "People said I'd make a good farmer too. Look how that turned out. I'm not going to let you make the same mistakes I made, chasing dreams that don't put food on the table." Gladys tried to intervene. "Vernon, maybe we should stay out of this, Gladys. This is between me and the boy." Vernon stood up and walked toward Elvis's room. Elvis followed, his heart pounding with fear. Vernon walked straight to the corner where Elvis kept his guitar, the beat-up acoustic that Gladys had saved for months to buy him for his 11th birthday. Vernon picked it up by the neck. "Daddy, what are you doing?" "I'm doing what I should have done years ago." Vernon walked to the front door, opened it, and walked outside to the trash cans that served the whole apartment building. Elvis ran after him, his stomach twisting with panic. "Daddy, please, that's my guitar. Mama bought it for me." Vernon opened the lid of the trash can and dropped the guitar inside. It made a sickening thud as it hit the bottom. "There," Vernon said, turning back to face his son. "Now maybe you'll focus on something that matters. Get a real job, learn a trade. Stop wasting your time on this music nonsense." Elvis stood frozen, tears streaming down his face. He couldn't believe what had just happened. His guitar, the instrument he'd practiced on for 4 years, the instrument that held his dreams, was sitting in the trash. "I hate you," Elvis whispered. Vernon's face flickered with something, pain maybe, or regret, but his voice stayed hard. "You'll thank me someday. When you've got a steady job and a family to support, you'll understand." Vernon walked back inside, leaving Elvis standing alone in the dark, staring at the trash can that held his future. Elvis stood there for a long time, crying silently, the March wind cutting through his thin jacket. Finally, he went back inside. His mama was waiting in the living room, her face wet with tears. "Baby, I'm so sorry," Gladys whispered. "Your daddy means well. He's just scared. He doesn't want you to struggle like we've struggled." "He threw away my guitar, Mama, the guitar you bought me." Gladys hugged him tight. "I know, baby, I know." Elvis went to his room without eating dinner. He lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling like his world had ended. His father didn't believe in him. His guitar was in the trash. His dreams were over before they'd really begun. Around 10 o'clock, Elvis heard his parents go to bed. The apartment fell silent except for the sounds of the city outside. Elvis lay there, unable to sleep, replaying the evening over and over in his mind. At midnight, Elvis made a decision. He got up quietly, careful not to make any noise on the creaky floors. He put on his shoes and his jacket. He crept through the apartment, past his parents' bedroom where he could hear his father snoring, and out the front door. The trash cans were still there, lined up against the wall of the building. Elvis lifted the lid of the can where Vernon had thrown the guitar, terrified of what he might find. The guitar was still there, lying on top of some garbage bags. Elvis pulled it out carefully, examining it in the dim light from the street lamp. One of the strings had broken when Vernon threw it in, and there was a new crack in the body. But it was still playable. It was still his. Elvis hugged the guitar to his chest and cried with relief. But now he had a problem. He couldn't bring the guitar back inside. If Vernon saw it, he'd throw it away again, or worse, destroy it completely. Elvis needed to hide it somewhere his father would never find it. He thought about the church basement where he sometimes practiced. He thought about leaving it with a friend, but both of those options felt risky. He needed somewhere safe, somewhere permanent. Then Elvis remembered Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson was an elderly black man who lived in the next building over. He'd been a jazz musician in his younger days, and Elvis had spent countless hours sitting on his stoop listening to stories about the old days. Mr. Johnson understood music. He understood dreams. And he lived alone, which meant Vernon would never have a reason to go to his apartment. Elvis walked to Mr. Johnson's building and knocked softly on his door. It was after midnight, and he felt terrible for waking an old man. But this was an emergency. After a long moment, the door opened. Mr. Johnson stood there in his pajamas, looking confused. "Elvis, what in the world are you doing here at this hour?" "Mr. Johnson, I'm so sorry to wake you, but I need your help. My daddy threw my guitar in the trash and told me to give up on music. I pulled it out, but I can't keep it at home. He'll just throw it away again." Elvis's voice cracked. "Please, Mr. Johnson, can I keep it here? I'll come practice at your place when my daddy's at work. I won't bother you, I promise. But I can't lose this guitar. It's all I have." Mr. Johnson looked at the crying teenager, at the damaged guitar in his hands, and his heart broke. He stepped aside and opened the door wider. "Come on in, son. Let's have some milk and talk about this." Elvis spent the next hour telling Mr. Johnson everything, about the gig offer, about his father's reaction, about the fight, about rescuing the guitar from the trash at midnight. Mr. Johnson listened quietly, nodding occasionally, his weathered hands wrapped around a coffee cup. "Your daddy's not a bad man," Mr. Johnson finally said. "He's a scared man. There's a difference. He's scared because he's struggled his whole life, and he doesn't want to see you struggle too. In his mind, he's protecting you by crushing your dreams before the world can crush them." "But he's wrong," Elvis said. "I know I can make it. I feel it in my bones." "Maybe you can. Maybe you can't. That's not the point." Mr. Johnson leaned forward. "The point is that it's your dream, Elvis, not his. You're the one who has to live with whatever choice you make. If you give up on music because your daddy told you to, and you spend your whole life wondering, what if? That's a kind of death too, a slow one." Elvis nodded, wiping his eyes. "Here's what we're going to do," Mr. Johnson said. "You keep that guitar here. You come practice whenever you need to. I'll fix that broken string and patch up that crack in the body. And you keep working on your music without telling your daddy." "You mean lie to him?" "I mean survive long enough to prove him wrong. Sometimes that's what dreamers have to do. You're not lying to hurt him. You're protecting your dream until it's strong enough to defend itself." For the next 3 years, that's exactly what Elvis did. He'd leave for school early and stop by Mr. Johnson's apartment to practice for an hour. He'd come home late, claiming he was with friends, when really he'd been at Mr. Johnson's, working on his music. On weekends when Vernon worked overtime, Elvis would spend entire afternoons practicing. Vernon thought Elvis had given up on music. He was proud of his son for coming to his senses. He never knew that the guitar he'd thrown away was sitting in an old man's apartment one building over, being played for hours every day. Mr. Johnson became Elvis's secret mentor. He taught him about blues, about jazz, about the history of black music that Elvis was instinctively drawing from. He taught him about showmanship, about connecting with an audience, about putting your whole self into every performance. "You got something special, Elvis," Mr. Johnson would say. "Something I ain't heard before. You just got to keep developing it until the world's ready to hear it." In 1953, when Elvis was 18, he walked into Sun Records to make a demo recording. He used the guitar that his father had thrown in the trash 3 years earlier, now repaired and worn smooth from thousands of hours of practice. When "That's All Right" became a hit in 1954, Elvis finally told his father the truth. "Daddy, I need to show you something." Elvis led Vernon to Mr. Johnson's apartment. The old man opened the door with a knowing smile. "Vernon, come on in. There's something you should see. In the corner of Mr. Johnson's living room sat Elvis's guitar, the same guitar Vernon had thrown away 4 years earlier. "What is this?" Vernon asked, confused. "The night you threw my guitar in the trash," Elvis said. "I went out at midnight and pulled it out. I've been keeping it here, practicing every day while you thought I'd given up on music." Vernon's face went through a dozen emotions: shock, anger, confusion, and finally something that looked like shame. "You've been lying to me for 4 years?" "I've been surviving for 4 years," Elvis said quietly. "Daddy, you tried to kill my dream. You didn't do it to be cruel. I know that now. You did it because you were scared for me. But I couldn't let that fear kill what I was meant to do." Elvis picked up the guitar and showed Vernon the crack in the body, now barely visible under years of wear. "This guitar has a scar because you threw it away, but I kept playing it anyway. And now I've got a record on the radio. People are paying money to see me perform. The dream you tried to kill is coming true." Vernon stood there, unable to speak. Tears were running down his face. "I'm sorry, son," Vernon finally whispered. "I was so scared of watching you fail that I tried to make you fail on my terms. I thought it would hurt less that way." "I know, Daddy. I forgive you." Vernon pulled Elvis into a hug, the first real hug they'd shared in years. "I was wrong. I was so wrong." Mr. Johnson watched this reunion with tears in his own eyes. He'd kept Elvis's secret for 4 years, helped him develop his talent in hiding, and now he was watching a father and son reconcile over a dream that had refused to die. Vernon Presley became Elvis's biggest supporter after that day. He traveled with Elvis, helped manage his early career, and never once told him to give up on music again. But he also never forgot what he'd almost done. "I nearly destroyed the greatest thing my son had," Vernon would say in later years. "I threw his guitar in the trash and told him to get a real job. If he hadn't been brave enough to rescue it at midnight, the world would never have had Elvis Presley. That's a weight I carry every day." The guitar that Vernon threw away became one of Elvis's most treasured possessions. He kept it his whole life, even after he could afford any instrument in the world. It represented something important. The night he chose his dream over his father's fear, the years he practiced in secret, the courage it took to believe in himself when the person who should have believed in him didn't. Mr. Johnson passed away in 1962. Elvis was at his bedside, holding his hand. "Thank you," Elvis whispered, "for keeping my secret, for believing in me when my own daddy didn't, for giving me a place to become who I was meant to be." Mr. Johnson smiled weakly. "You would have made it anyway, Elvis. The talent was always there. I just gave it somewhere to grow." Vernon threw his son's guitar in the trash and told him to get a real job. But at midnight, while his parents slept, Elvis made a choice that would change history. He chose his dream. He chose to believe in himself. And he found an unlikely ally who helped him survive until his talent was undeniable. Sometimes the people who love us try to protect us from our dreams. Sometimes they're so scared of watching us fail that they try to make us fail before the world can. But real dreamers find a way. They rescue their guitars from trash cans at midnight. They practice in secret. They survive until they can thrive. Elvis was told to give up on music by his own father. Instead, he became the king of rock and roll. And it all started with a choice made at midnight when a heartbroken teenager decided that his dream was worth fighting for, even if he had to fight in secret. If this story of secret dreams and midnight courage moved you, make sure to subscribe and share this video. Let us know in the comments if you've ever had to protect a dream from someone who didn't believe in it. Sometimes the most important battles we fight are the ones nobody sees.